Hello, everyone. Oh my god, Tommo, you're so late. Again. Absolute fraudulence. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the stream. What's good, people? We well? We happy? Have we recovered from this morning's escapades? It's been a busy day. Been a busy day. Hello, Nathan, Anton, Kev, Carrie, Josiah, Risa, Pickle Hunter, Michaela, Professor, Kai, Frozen, Micah, Toby, Harry, Marcel, Max, Tom, Pulse, Zias, Fabio, Ishan. Hello, everyone. Thank you for coming. Welcome to... Did I update the graphics? I don't think I've updated the graphics. Welcome to not the French Grand Prix. Actually, we'll come back to that. So we need to do the race rating out of 10. Come on then, early doors, out of 10. What we saying for the Hungarian Grand Prix, not the French Grand Prix? What are we saying for this race out of 10? Not 6s, 7s, 8s. In fact, something I could probably do to make this a bit more streamlined, because I can get an idea of how most of you are voting. 10, 9, 8. Okay. So first option is going to be 9 or more, then 8, then 7, then 6 or less. Yeah. Okay, that works. Hungarian GP out of 10. Okay, we'll do an actual poll. I think this kind of works. This covers like broadly. So if you think it was a 9 or more, click 9 or 9 plus. If you think it was an 8 out of 10, click 8. If you think it was 7, click 7. If you think it was 6 or less, click 6. 55% saying 8 so far. Come on, get them in. Get the votes in. Hungarian Grand Prix. Great quali. First of all, got to start on Saturday. Very, very interesting, very exciting qualification. You know, when you've got some mixing up in the Q1 wasn't anything particularly interesting, but then in Q2 we lost Checo, which obviously partly on him, partly on the fact that his lap was unfairly deleted and then returned to that, which kind of disrupted his rhythm, which was a shame for Checo. And then Q3 kind of went off, didn't it? Mercedes pace. 47% of you said 8, 29, 7. So majority of the vote is around there. So I'd probably say that's averaging 15% 9 plus as well. So it's averaging like high 7, I would say. High 7. Decent 7.5. Okay. So for me, my opinion was, and again, it's not the French Grand Prix. It's the Hungarian Grand Prix. And I gave it a 7 out of 10. I gave it a 7. It was good. I thought it was good. It's good race. 7 out of 10 is a good rating. Okay? It's not a bad rating. It wasn't miles clear of the French Grand Prix. I actually enjoyed the French Grand Prix a little bit more, I'll be honest. But hey ho, there you go. Everyone's got an opinion, all right? It was good. It had, you know what, obviously mixed strategies at the start made it quite challenging, but in a good way, to follow what was going on, I guess, through the race, because obviously you had a lot of people starting the mediums and softs, and then the strategies going all over the place, undercuts, overcuts. It was a good race. I I just enjoyed France a little bit more. I'll be honest. I got a little bit more enjoyment out of France. But at the end of the day, even though qualifying wasn't great for Max Verstappen, he delivered yet another 25 points, yet another race win for Red Bull Racing. Thank you, Barty, for joining Friends of Tommo. I appreciate it. And thank you, Dippian, for the 200 rupees. Being a Ferrari fan is not difficult. It's a punishment. We will get into Ferrari. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. Don't you worry. We will deep dive. But yeah, I think two of the strongest drivers in Max, in Lewis, showed why they're considered so highly in this race. Absolutely. Coming from 10th and 7th respectively to be 1 and 2 on the podium, combined with their teams doing the unromantic work of strategy, making sure you're in the right place at the right time to capitalise, to deliver. That's exactly what Red Bull did to get Max in P1, exactly what Mercedes did to get Lewis in P2, and exactly what another team didn't do. The fact there was no Ferrari driver on the podium at all is crazy, given the pace. Big up Hannah Schmitz, exactly. Red Bull. She's chief strategist. Delivered the goods. Delivered the goods. So, breakdown. And again, this will be the French Grand Prix graphic because I forgot to update them beforehand. This is how your Hungarian Grand Prix finished. Max Verstappen P1, Lewis Hamilton P2 with fastest lap, George Russell P3, Sainz P4, Perez P5, and Leclerc P6. The absolute pain for Charles Leclerc. It's not good. It's not good. Norris 7, about as good as he could have hoped for. Alonso 8, Ocon 9, about as good as they could have hoped for, although maybe they put the hard tyres on, which clearly wasn't the tyre to be on. Vettel was only 0.1 behind Ocon by the end, almost caught him. It's a great drive from Seb. Then Stroll. So it's at Aston Martin 10 and 11 again as well. Crazy. Thank you, Dewa, for the 20,000 IDR. I don't know what that is, but I hope it's not that much. I'm having a good day, thank you. Busy day. Busy day. Busy day today. The live stream earlier for the Fernando Alonso news to Aston Martin. I'm not really going to talk about that here. We know what we know. I've already talked about it. Fernando Alonso to Aston Martin from next year. Crazy. I did a live stream earlier. If you want to hear my thoughts about that, you can watch that. We're just talking about the Hungarian Grand Prix here. Just so you know. Thank you, Maximilian. My shirt does have a lovely blue tone, doesn't it? Big up Carhartt. Anyway, that's how it finished. That's how it finished. And the championship standings. Again, this isn't updated yet. Now it is. The championship standings going into the summer break. 13 of 22 rounds. Max Verstappen, an 80 point lead at the top. This is the first time all season I feel like the championship is now done. I think the constructors and the drivers is Red Bulls in 2022. I cannot foresee a scenario in which they let this slip. They're not going to Steven Gerrard it from here, okay? It's not going to happen. What might happen is Mercedes finish ahead of Ferrari and the constructors. That's way more likely. But yeah, crazy. Not too many moves in terms of position. Russell goes ahead of Sainz again. There's only 2 points in it. And Lewis, only 14 points behind George Russell now, which, considering how big that gap was, mad. That is pretty mad. It's mad to me as well that Bottas is still ahead of Alonso. I think that really illustrates how bad Fernando's luck's been. Because Valtteri and Alfa Romeo had a great start to the season, but it's been very mediocre since then. Not bad like this weekend, to be fair. I think Bottas was running in the points, wasn't he? Oh, was it 12 points? Oh, yeah, I can't count. Bottas was running in the points, wasn't he? When he conked out. So, yeah. Otherwise, not much change through the championship standings. Right. We'll deep dive it. But first of all, I want to look at... Hannah's ringing me. Well, I'm streaming, Han. Don't ring me when I'm streaming. I can automatically send a message. Hang on, I'm just going to WhatsApp her. Say hello to Hannah. Stream. Oh my god, what's happened there? Is that but? Hang on, right? Hang on a second. She didn't want anything. She didn't want anything. I think she's just on a lunch break. Honey, you know I stream at 2 o'clock. Sort it out. Okay, right, cool. So, that's how the championship stands. Yeah, let's look at winners and losers from the Hungarian Grand Prix. So, again, I'm take these in. My driver W, driver L, team W, team L. And some of these are pretty obvious, right? So for me, and again, these aren't my winners and losers. These are my winners and losers. I've gone Max, driver. I've gone Red Bull, team, which I think might surprise a few people, having looked at yours anyway. I've gone Yuki, driver, L, and I've gone Ferrari, team, L. Do I miss Winston Reed every day, Outlaw, every single day? So I think the most controversial one I put here is Red Bull for team. But here's why, right? Red Bull, poor qualifying. Car conked out for Max, wasn't working properly. Perez, kind of his fault, but kind of not. Reason I go Red Bull, right? This weekend perfectly illustrated what it means to be a good, well-oiled, strategic, balanced team when you compare Red Bull Ferrari. Because both the Red Bulls were planning on running hard tyres at the start. The drivers went out on the reconnaissance lap, couldn't get temperature in the softs, fed that information back to Red Bull, even though all of their data beforehand suggested that the hard was the tyre to start on. The team listened to the drivers, changed the strategy. I know Checo didn't get on the podium, but Max wins the race from P10. Perfect strategy, moving through the field. I think a lot of people wrote Max off, didn't give him a shot. I didn't think he'd have a chance of winning the race at all. They listened to their drivers, which is exactly what Ferrari didn't do and haven't done on so many occasions this year. They listened to the drivers at the right time. There's a time to not listen to the drivers. I'd argue McLaren, Russia last year. McLaren are the ones with the data. They have to tell Lando what to do in that instance. You can't trust the driver to make weather predictions when they're on a track that they don't have the data, they don't have the radars. But for Max to win from 10th, like, you have to give a huge amount of credit to Red Bull for delivering that strategy, as well as Max for the drive. So for me, just that element. Yes, Mercedes got a 1 and 2 and 3 again, incredibly impressive. Great in qualifying. Unfortunate for Lewis, the DRS issue. But there you go. So that's why Red Bull are my team of the weekend. Aston Martin are up there in the points on the fringe again. It's a big step forward, I think, compared to how they've been typically this year. And then McLaren, look, Lando delivered a great drive. I know it wasn't great for Daniel, but I think that's more on him. Hence why he's in the honourable mentions of driver of the weekend. I think that was more. The car clearly had pace, and fair play to McLaren for delivering a car that can. Driver W, I went with Verstappen. I think Lewis is right up there as well. Like from P7 to P2 in a car that isn't as clearly doesn't have the pace of the Red Bull. Very impressive. Very, very, very. Like Lewis has been, since they stopped experimenting with his car, which ultimately I think that the pain that Lewis had to go through earlier in the season, trying out all these experimental setups, is now paying dividends to both him and the team. And he has been, I think, overall a quicker driver than George in these last kind of 5-6 races, proving why he's as good as he is. You know what I mean? Like, don't get it twisted. Lewis is still, him and Max for me are and Leclerc, just those mistakes. So yeah, great drive from both. Max just about takes it for me. I put Stroll in there. Now, I didn't put Vettel in there, but I did put Stroll. And you might think, but Tommo, Vettel started behind Stroll, finished ahead of him. Almost got Ocon for P9 as well. I think if Stroll doesn't get punted by Ricciardo, because Stroll's running ahead of Seb at that time, he pirouettes him 360, buggers up his tyres. I think, Stroll out-qualifies Seb as well. I think it was a very, very strong weekend from Lance Stroll. Credit where credit is due for Lance. And then, of course, George Russell put it on pole. Couldn't have done too much more in the race, I don't think. Like, he was leaning on those tyres a lot at the start to keep the Ferraris behind. And I think it's that maybe resulted in his tyres falling away quicker towards the end of the race, where Lewis was able to jump in. But it's still an unreal move from George. Ricciardo did make an insane move on the Alpines, who were squabbling. That was a great move. That maybe saves Daniel from actually getting driver of the weekend for me. But yeah. And then driver, Yuki Tsunoda, nowhere. Spun on his own as well. Really poor qualifying. Just never looked comfortable in that car at all at any point during the weekend. And, obviously, AlphaTauri have to, take a degree of responsibility there because, Pierre was able to go from the back to P12. But also the driver does, take a significant... The driver's significantly involved in getting the car set up and getting it in the right place, and they need to feed back to get... So, yes, the team, clearly weren't able to give Yuki a car that he could go quick in, but that is also on Yuki as well. Like, he has to take a degree of responsibility for that. So, yeah. Another frustrating race for AlphaTauri. Ricciardo's talked about him already. Latifi, it was so promising. Purple Sector 1 in Q1. I still can't explain that. All I can think is that the track in that Sector 1 had dried up quite significantly. I don't know. To go purple Sector 1 in Q1. Purple. Quicker than any car in Sector 1. In that Williams. Mad. But he bottled the lap. And that's just... The fact of the matter is that he bottled the lap. A lap can start great. Verstappen, Saudi Arabia last year. We're all waxing lyrical about that one. But he still bottled it. And Latifi did here. There's no point putting a lap in if you're not going to finish it. So, and also for Albon to have a wing replacement so early on and still come through the field and be able to finish ahead of Latifi, it's not great, is it? And then I've put Perez in there. Now, Perez, obviously, it was an unfortunate qualifying. It wasn't his fault that his time was wrongly deleted. But at the same time, he still has to take a degree of responsibility for not putting a time quick enough in. You're in a Red Bull. You should be getting out of Q2. Like, it's fair to criticise a Red Bull when Albon wasn't getting out of Q2, when Gasly wasn't getting out of Q2. The criticism's fair, okay? Because it is... it's the top 2 car, obviously. And then, obviously, in the race, it started okay. And they did kind of split the strategies. But when you look at where Max ended up, and the fact that they started in very similar positions... I still don't think it was a great race from Checo. He did have good pace at the end, but he just didn't have enough laps to get moves done and finish P5. It's not a good weekend. You can't say that, you know. There were times, but in a Red Bull when your teammate's done what he's done, and this is the thing, you're always going to be comparing him to Max Verstappen, and that is a huge, like, it's Max Verstappen. Cheers, Leah. Lance was only ahead because Seb saved tyres the whole race until the end, and Stroll wanted Seb to stay behind first, but Seb argued with them. Well, I mean, yeah, Seb's entitled to save tyres. I'm just saying that Seb, and to be fair, because Seb did have contact with Albon at the start, which I've only seen one angle of, and they gave it as a racing incident, so I don't really know. I don't know if that caused damage to Seb's car. I don't know. I'm not aware, right? But all I'm saying is that Stroll was running ahead, got spun out by Ricciardo. Like, you can't tell me that Stroll wouldn't have been further up the field if he hadn't have been spun out by Ricciardo. Maybe Seb still would have passed him. But Stroll did get clattered. And it was still fairly close between them. Obviously, you know, Stroll let Seb pass because he had a lot more pace on that tyre. But there's a lot of ifs, buts, maybes when we're considering it. Because, you know, I think Latifi did have a bit of end plate damage at the start as well, but Albon needed a whole new wing. Magnussen also had damage, so there were actually a few, like, it's funny, there weren't many DNF. There was one DNF and it was Bottas right at the end. So almost no one DNF'd. Yet there were like a few little niggly incidents at the start, you know. But, yeah. And then team mail of the weekend, Ferrari. Ferrari. I mean, I could have just put Ferrari. You know what I mean? Like, it's just Ferrari, isn't it? Like, what more can I say? What more can I could have just put Ferrari 4 times here. It's just there's nothing more to say. Consistent, exactly. Ferrari, consistently. Ugh. Consistently painful. Okay? It's just a joke, isn't it? We'll get into Ferrari, don't you worry. Williams, not great. Haas, not great. AlphaTauri, not great. Not much more to say. Right, how about your winners and losers? Yours. What are yours? Well, it's not them. It's these. There you go. 71% of the vote didn't go to... I forgot to upgrade. Hang on. Damn it. I forgot to change the name, the pictures. Give me a sec. Shambles. It's not a shambles, George. It's all part of my charm, okay? 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 It's definitely on purpose. There we go. That's better. Your winners and losers. Lovely jubbly. Here we go. Boom. There we go. There we go. Tommo moving like Ferrari. Always. Thank you, Stephen, for the $4.99. Appreciate it. Much love from Wisconsin. When you do post-race ratings, can you include the previous year's rating included? That way we can compare. Yeah. Perhaps. Well, it's only this year I've been doing it for every single race. So I guess, yeah, next season. Yeah. I guess, because I usually, when my pre-race, I do who won the year before, don't I? So perhaps that could work. Anyway, right. So these are the updated. 71% of you went for Max Verstappen, driver W of the weekend. Lewis Hamilton, 16. George Russell, 7. Sebastian Vettel, 2%. Surely Norris should be on the W. Look, Lando didn't do anything wrong, did he? I think obviously it's hard to rate Lando's race. It's very difficult to rate Lando's race, isn't it? Because obviously he fell back, but then he qualified ahead of a Red Bull and a Mercedes, so fair enough. He didn't lose position to anyone but the Red Bulls and Hamilton. So, you know, it's hard to get a proper measure of how good, but when you compare it to Ricciardo's, it was great. But yeah, driver W, 86% of you went for Mercedes team of the weekend, which I understand. I can understand why. I just think that I was extra impressed by how Red Bull handled that, having had a poor qualifying, how they were able to turn it around and deliver. I think that's a sign of a real strong team. Driver L, you've given it to Leclerc. Now, obviously, again, when I'm doing this, and I always try and be like, what responsibility did the driver themselves cock up? Like when Tsunoda drives into the barriers in Canada, or where Leclerc spins in France, like that's on the driver. Obviously, you've gone with, which is, you know, it's still an L that, you know, Charles was handed, but more by his team. Did he do anything wrong himself? No. His pace was great on the medium. Didn't want to pit, but they pitted him anyway. Oh, Randy, did I miss you a super chat, mate? I'm sorry. Is it going to be that? No, it's not. Cool. I will find it, Randy. Don't you worry, mate. JB's in the chat as well. Hello, mate. Hope you're well. Need to come karting sometime with you and Alda and get off my ass. Cool. What next? Yeah, Team L. So Team W. Sorry. Yeah, Red Bull. Aston Martin got a little shout out, which I think's fair. You know, I think Aston Martin deserve a little, a bit of love, because it's been two kind of good weekends in a row compared to where they have been. For them to be on the cusp of the points and slash in the points 2 weeks in a row, that's good. That's good. And yeah, Tsunoda, Ricardo, Perez. You've got the same ones as me in there. Team L, obviously 93% of the vote for Ferrari. Alpine 2%, which they finished where they started. Again, if you factor in the Ferraris, the Red Bull, sorry. But there is question marks around, let's just say that, we'll get into it in the Alpine section. I'm getting ahead of myself. AlphaTauri, poor. Haas. Mick had a good start, but it fell away. It sadly fell away pretty shortly after that. Right, cool. Okay, I need to double check. I haven't missed any super chats. Randy, mate. Thank you, buddy. Race was a solid 8 for Randy. I gave it a 7. Most of you gave it 8, so fair enough. You're not alone, Randy. Max did what he does best. 6 cars fighting for a podium. No, I guess. Maybe a stupid question. How do you become a friend of Tommo? There should be a join button on the screen if it is available in your country. Let me make sure I haven't missed any others. But thank you, Randy. Appreciate it, mate. Thank you, Harvey, as well. When Jeff from the F1 game has a better strategy. Literally, when Ferrari put on those hard tyres, wasn't everyone, collectively, including the commentators, being like, what's going on? The other teams, what's going on? My 2 cents. Ferrari management supports science. Crew supports Charles. That's why management deliberately screwing up Leclerc. Why would they do that? What have they got? What? No, they're not clearly. They're clearly not deliberately screwing up. Why would they do that? That makes literally no sense. But I appreciate the support. Let me just make sure I haven't missed any others. Nayan, P2 in the constructors. Don't necessarily disagree, Nayan. It could happen, mate. Thank you. And then Mercedes F1 fan, what do you think about flexi floors? I mean, look, if you're from what I've heard about the flexi floors, it's like so you know when Ferrari were cheating, right? We all know this was happening. Their fuel flow sensor, when the sensor wasn't checking, it was giving more fuel flow, and then it's going up and down, right? Now they could see what was being measured, and they operated around that to circumvent it. And we all can look at that and be like, that's cheating, because they're circumnavigating how things are measured. Could you argue the same with these planks? Because teams knew where these planks were going to be measured, the flexibility of these planks were going to be measured, so they just made other parts of the plank flexible. Could you argue that's cheating in the same way? That's my understanding of what's gone on. And I know that, like, you know, in Sky, I know what Ted was talking about it, wasn't he, in his like post-quali thing. He was saying about how he doesn't think that, like, he was like, they're not cheating, they're just a different interpretation of the rules. But that's the thing. It's like, where does a different interpretation of the rules? Because I think there's a difference between like seeing a way something's worded and interpreting it in a different way, and seeing how something's measured and going directly against the rules to circumnavigate it. Again, like the Ferrari fuel flow thing, like fundamentally, if you're making your plank flexing, even though the rules say you can't let your plank flex by more than 2 millimeters, if you make it flex by more than that in areas that aren't being measured, that sounds like cheating to me. I'm not being funny. That sounds like cheating to me. Now, is that what's happened? I don't know. That's how, from what I've read, from what I have taken in, which I haven't taken. I'm sure there's information that I haven't taken in and haven't seen. That's my understanding of what's going on. So I'm just like, where's the line? You know what I mean? Where's the line? That's the thing. So you can say the test is the rule, but then you could then apply that to Ferrari with the fuel flow, right? Surely, if they can find a way to circumnavigate the test, then it's fair game. Like, because I do think there's a difference. I do think that there is a line, and I feel like what Ferrari did was clearly, and I think if these flexi floors, I think it's difficult, isn't it? It is difficult because I don't think the test is the rule. Like, if you say, right, this can't flex by more than 2 millimeters, and we're going to enforce this rule by testing it, and then you're like, okay, cool, yeah, it can't flex by more than 2 millimeters. We'll make it flex by 6, but just in a place you're not checking. Like, that doesn't seem. I'm not basing this off Toto Wolff's words. I'm basing this off of everything that I've consumed, both from Toto, Christian, from independent news sources, because that's what you have to do. Because you can't trust the team principals, to be honest. Toto's obviously going to say whatever benefits his side. And so is Christian. And so is Mattia. So is everyone. But that's the thing as well, you don't want to be getting in the way of progression at the same time. Because like the technical battle is part of what makes F1 exciting. And like, you know, innovation like this Aston Martin rear wing. Like, I haven't really looked into the details of why fundamentally this goes against the regulations, but I want to see innovation. And like Mercedes, when they brought out DAS, like, they saw an area where they could make a change and keep it within the rules. And they did so. They brought something that wasn't, other people weren't using. The FIA let them have it for a year and then got rid of it. It's just like, the thing is, these teams are so, these people are so unbelievably intelligent and clever, far more intelligent than any of us. Okay, I mean, you're spending your time watching me. Like, come on. I just think that you're not going to be able to, when you set the rules out for a sport, you're not going to be able to account for every possible innovation. That's just not, and that's fine. You know what I mean? You don't want overly restrictive ruling, but you're always going to get to these elements where, again, you can't really trust the teams because they're always just going to back their own corner. You've got to trust the people in charge to be able to look at these things and make objectively the honest, correct decision by everyone, not just by the top teams either. More cheating in sport, yes. Bring on the cheating. Mercedes F1 fan also says, what about Massey being rewarded money for Abu Dhabi? I mean, I that's not, come on now, let it go. What's happened. All we can do now is try and ensure the future of the sport is governed in a better way than 2021 was. But thank you for the donor. Right, okay. Let's look at the... So we looked at the championship table. That's all good. Right, team by team. And I don't want to start with Haas. I want to start with Ferrari. Oh, dear. Okay. I want to start with a poll, actually. That's what I want to start with. So, the poll that I'm putting is... Should Binotto go? Simple question. Should Binotto go? Now, Mattia Binotto. Now, I've did a profile video on him a while back. Okay, he's a Ferrari man. Been in Ferrari for a long time. And also, have a debates in the chat, but let's not get nasty and toxic to each other. Okay, I don't harbour a community like that. If you can't be nice and respectful, then I don't want you here. Just so you know. Question is, should Binotto go? So, basically, I want to see what you lot think now, and then I want to kind of explain my thoughts and my perspective, and then I want to ask the question again, and see if my thoughts maybe make any of your minds change for or against. Should Mattia Binotto, team principal of the Ferrari F1 team, go? Is that the problem? Because at the end of the day, and it's kind of funny, right? A lot of people, right, after the ruling after Abu Dhabi, right, a lot of people like to call Max Verstappen a human error champion. Well, you could say that if Ferrari come close but don't quite get it this year, then Max is a two-time human error champion, because Ferrari strategy is human people making bad decisions, and their errors result in Max being champion. I'm kidding, of course. It's a joke. It's funny. But yeah. Should Binotto go? About 1,500 votes. It's about 60% yes. 40% no. Tommo, don't you dare go. I'm just stirring the pot, right? It's funny how sensitive the stands are so sensitive. It's honestly brilliant. Cheers, Mike, for the 5. I think Binotto is going is like saying all of last year is down to Massey. Sure, he's part of the problem, but the problems run much deeper. It's a fair point. The thing is, right? So, okay, you lot have said, so 61% yes, 39% no. All right, let's kind of explain my standing now. Clearly, Ferrari's strategy, and this isn't a one-off thing, right? The Ferrari clown memes exist for a reason. Okay, they exist for a reason because of the consistency in which these instances have occurred. Now, do I think getting rid of Binotto is the solution? No. Do I think changing Mattia Binotto's role within that team could be the solution? Because Mattia Binotto has had more than enough time to acknowledge that there are issues within Ferrari strategy in terms of, you have to give Binotto credit because he's a technical man and he's come through the team. He used to work in the engine division. He knows from a technical point of view, he's probably by quite a margin the most technical team principal on the grid. So like a lot of Arriva Bene, who came before, he's a marketing man from Marlborough. You know, Toto Wolff, marketing man at Williams, and you know, ex-driver, and Christian Horner, like ex-driver, and you know, most of these team principals throughout the grids haven't necessarily been technical people. Some are, some aren't. Gunter's an engineer, it's true. There are examples against that, but being a good team principal doesn't require you to. The job is to delegate. You are at top of that pyramid, right? And your job is to get the right people in the right places to achieve success and do well, right? It's not your job to know everything. It's not your job to that's your job to delegate. Now, Mattia Binotto, you have to give him a huge amount of credit for producing what has been this year, probably overall, the best car. I would say slightly. If you look at the numbers, Brake's talked about this. Blake, shout out Brake F1. Ex-Red Bull man, by the way. Ferrari, I think, of just about, in terms of total car performance over the whole season, if you average everything out, I would say that Ferrari's had the stronger package. And you have to give Binotto credit for that, for producing, for putting the people together to create a car that's on its day as good as this. Yes, the engine goes pop every now and then, but we know that you need to be aggressive with this engine development because you can't bring performance upgrades to that engine till the end of 2025. It's locked in for all of this year, all of next year, all the year after that, and all the year after that. You can't make any performance upgrades to that car. But you can make reliability upgrades to the car. So you want to build a nuke and then kind of gradually, you know, get on top of it blowing up every now and then, right? So that's the right approach to take. And they've done that. And yes, it goes boom a bit more than the Honda or the Mercedes or the Renault, but they've clearly got a good engine there that I think they will eventually dial reliability into it. So that's fine. The car's great. The engine's like, it's good. It's very good. Like, yeah, it does go pop, but again, that's kind of what you got to do. The problem is the strategy, right? Binotto's a technical man, produced a great car, but is he the right man to spearhead the team when it's like all this effort's gone into creating this amazing car, yet they are nowhere near Red Bull? And it's the vast majority. And look, Charles and Carlos are part of this team, you know? Carlos spinning in Australia, Leclerc crashing out in France. Like, there's a degree of culpability on them, for sure, as drivers, right? They're part of that team. But at the end of the day, when so consistently the calls that are being made, which are calls that most of the time Red Bull, Mercedes, they're making these calls look easy, because the way that Mercedes and Ferrari and Red Bull were able to, with strategy, enable Hamilton and Verstappen to move through the field and finish first and second, we just don't see that from Ferrari anywhere near enough. And we see far too often where they completely balls it up, like in Monaco. And it's just, and like yesterday, where it just, where's the sense? Listen to your driver. Red Bull, listen to their drivers. They know when the right time is to listen to their drivers and act on the data. Because sometimes it's right to do one, sometimes it's right to do the other. Mercedes, exactly the same. They know when to act. Do they get it right 100% of the time? Of course not. But the better the strategy team you have, the more likely you are to make the right decision when you need to. Mercedes, when they pitted Hamilton in Russia to win the race over Norris, like, you know, that was an example of Mercedes gave Lewis concise instructions because they knew that they knew more than Lewis did, and they were able to deliver that win. So I just think that, you know, it's a shame because I've got a lot of time for Binotto, and I think he deserves the credit for the good that's been done. And I don't want to just sit here and just, you know, just clown on the man. But at the end of the day, he's responsible for the team, and he's responsible for this strategy not being good enough. And he needs to, we're in summer break now, there needs to be some new personnel. I don't know, scalp someone off of another team. You're going to have to give them gardening leave, so they probably won't start until like next year at the earliest. Something needs to change, because these things keep happening and they keep not learning from the mistakes. And I like to think, because I know Binotto defends his team, right? There needs to be acknowledgement that they've been awful in terms of strategy. There's no room for denial here. They can't be sitting in denial, because that's not going to get them anywhere. Take the L, accept the L, and improve. Mattia Binotto is not a strategist, but it's his job to make sure the people who are in those jobs are as competent as they can be. And how we've seen so consistently them cocking up. Changes need to happen. I hope Mattia Binotto doesn't go. I don't want to see him leave. I don't think getting rid of him is the right choice. But, however, he needs to pull his finger out and sort out this strategy team and do something to change it. Or he needs to step into a technical priority role and get someone else in who can lead that side of the team. Lead the more race operations. Mattia focuses on the car development, kind of like a technical director. Move him to that position, because he's clearly able and has produced a fantastic car, and you can't forget that. Do all that, and then potentially bring someone else in. That's the way I feel. So I'm going to ask the question again. Should Binotto go? And again, this is, you know, if you say yes, they're getting rid of him, sacked. If you think yes, click yes. If you think no, I think no. I don't think you should go. But he needs to change something or move within the team. That needs to happen. That absolutely needs to happen. I would love to know what the Italian headlines this morning are. I'll be honest. I would be interested to see how much of a harpooning they've been taking. I really would. But yeah. There you go. Ferrari. Leclerc in the mud. Sainz, you know what? Like, Sainz's strategy wasn't that different to the Mercedes Red Bull, like the cars around him. He didn't have the hard tyres and still wasn't able to get on the podium. So I do think, you know, Ferrari, the problem is that Leclerc wasn't struggling. Like, he was happy with his pace. He was very happy with his pace on the mediums. You know, I just think that Leclerc was in a prime position to take a lot of points and ended up only finishing 6th, where you get like what, 8 points, right? Okay, so I've swung a few of your minds. Still 41% think he should go, but 59% no. Top 3. Look, just because I think things should change, I don't think firing Mattia Binotto is not the answer for me. It's just his strengths lie in different areas. That's the way I see it. Right, okay, that's Ferrari done. Red Bull, I mean, it's another great drive from Max Verstappen. Could 360 it, carry on, and still win the race. Shame that Checo couldn't follow suit. For Checo to be down in P5 with Max winning, and they were one after the other on track at some time. I know they split the strategy, but I don't think it was a bad strategy for Checo. He just didn't have the pace of Max, and that gap seems to have grown over recent races. And Checo needs to find a way to start executing performances like he was earlier on in the season. I think clearly as Max's understanding of the car and Red Bull's understanding of this new platform is increasing, that the cars are becoming a bit more oversteery. Leclerc's talked about this with his Ferrari. He likes it to be a bit live on the rear ends, gets you turn it in. It means that the risk is high, which we saw in France, but that's where the pace comes from. And Max is, I don't think there's anyone better in the world in F1, for sure, who's able to drive on that edge and not make a mistake. He did spin, which is, uncharacteristic, and the outcome of the spin was pretty negligible considering how bad it could have been. How much of that was related to the clutch issue, how much of that was related to potential moisture on track. It was a very lazy slide, so it's hard to say. I don't have the answers, but yeah, Checo has no place because no flexi floor. Look, Mercedes F1 fan, you're very generous, but there's a lot of conspiracies going on here, mate. Anyway, right, so yeah, Red Bull, pretty good. Mercedes, again, another 2-3. Consistent. Have they even broken down in any race yet? I know they've binned it, like, in Austria in qualifying, but, like, have they had any breakdowns in race at all? Hey, look, if someone wants to give me money to spout some thing that they... Oh, look, listen, maybe Checo was running the non-flexi floor. Who knows? That'll make the second half of the season interesting. No DNFs. No DNFs. Which is, they might not have the outright pace, but I think their engine's good. So I just think it's a chassis thing, really. That's how I feel. Obviously, yeah, Lewis DRS issue in quali could have been more, maybe. I don't think it would have been. I still think Max, given the pace and given the strategy, probably still wins. But look, I think George has proven without doubt that he can hang with Lewis. This is exactly what Mercedes wanted. They wanted a driver who could come in and take that, take that throne that Lewis will eventually pass down to him. And for George to be as close as he has been, I think Lewis has been on top the last few races, but I think for George to be as close as he has been to statistically the greatest of all time, who's still operating at a ridiculous level, like, that's a huge positive for Mercedes going forward. So, do I think Hamilton would have won without the VSC at the end? No, I don't think so. I think Max had that locked up. I think he was just managing the pace at the end, to be honest. Right, McLaren. Yeah, great race from Lando. Hard to say anything negative about Lando's race, really. But it was one of them where he finished where he started. Not technically, because the Red Bull started behind him and Lewis did, but you can't hold that against Lando not keeping them behind, because they have much quicker packages than McLaren at the moment. So yeah, I mean, pretty faultless from Lando. You know, it's the McLaren's still not quite where it needs to be, but I think the upgrades have made a difference. Obviously, Daniel was nowhere near. Daniel was given the hard tyres. Was Lando given the hard tyres? Question. Was Lando on the hard tyres? Because I know Daniel was. Lando was on the hard tyres as well. Damn. Most of you are saying yes. Obviously, I guess saved from the fact that the Alpines behind him were both on the hard tyres as well. That was not the tyre to be on. Clearly. But yeah, for Lando to finish P7, having also run the hard tyres, and Daniel to finish P15 in the end, wasn't it? Rick did get stuck in traffic. The thing is with Hungary, unless you've got a big pace delta, which the Red Bulls did, the Mercedes did, it is very difficult to overtake. Very difficult to overtake. So yeah, it was always going to be difficult for Lando to do anything more than that. But he had a great race, and Daniel didn't again. And Rick got a 5-second penalty, true, which it was his fault. It's slam dunk, that was, wasn't it? Just locked it up and punted Stroll. And as soon as you lock up and there's a move like that, they just say, well, you're out of control of the car. So, boom. Haas. Not really much to say about Haas. Mick started well, didn't he? Wasn't Mick up to like P9 or 10 or something at one stage? I swear Mick had like a really good start. And then Magnussen had to pit because he had front wing damage. Magnussen also was the one who had the... Was it P8? Nice. Magnussen was the one who had the upgraded car as well. And it didn't, look much... If anything, Mick looked a bit quicker. I guess the thing as well, like when you bring a new upgrade, it takes time to be able to understand it. So you're not necessarily going to be quicker straight out the gates. So that's fair enough. But I think Mick's... It wasn't a great result, but at the end of the day, he was much closer to K-Mag than he was at the start of the season, for sure. So I think as long as Mick can carry on... Obviously, he was being touted for the Aston Martin drive. Hasn't happened. They've gone Fernando. They've gone for the... maybe they're lining up Mick Schumacher for when Fernando retires. If he ever retires. Unless he's like 80 and still in F1. Because then Mick Schumacher will be a bit more bedded into F1. He'll still have the name. I wouldn't be surprised if Mick Schumacher takes over from Fernando. Because then it gives a bit more time for Mick to improve and show that he's got potential. Because I think he's not shown enough yet. But yeah. Aston Martin, yeah. I think that both drivers drove a really, really good race. Obviously, Stroll got the dub in qualifying, which doesn't happen often. Got spun out by Ricciardo. I think if that doesn't happen, he probably stays ahead of Seb. I don't know. Maybe not. But Seb was super unlucky not to get Ocon at the end as well. It was within like a tenth of a second. So, quality drive from Seb. Again. I think Seb's really doing well this year. I really do. And it was a better race from Lance. So, again, Lance isn't completely incompetent. Like, he's not that quick. But he's all right. He's not that bad. And yes, Stroll did let Vettel pass. But again, Stroll lost time being spun out by Ricciardo. A good chunk of time. But yeah, they're going in the right direction. Which again, maybe, this is part of what gives Fernando some hope. But again, 2 weekends on a bounce where they're 10th and 11th. And there were like no retirements this race either. So you can't just say, oh, well, everyone else blew up. No, they finished ahead on merit of both AlphaTauris, both Alfa Romeos, both Williams, both Haas. decent. And then the team that Fernando Alonso is currently out, Alpine. Right, I'm going to ask another poll. Was Ocon's lap 1 defence on Alonso over the line? So, question. Was Ocon's lap 1 defence on Alonso over the line? So, if you think Ocon defended too hard, click yes. If you think he didn't defend too hard, it was fine, click no. Because, so this is, and I talked about it earlier on, which you can watch after this. Actually, is it up yet? Is it live? Let me just check. Because me and Mr. Hayden Gullis, it is live. We recorded an episode of Talking Points, so you should listen to that after this if you want more of me waffling. Talking Points, and we're talking about this incident. For me, it's one of them that if that's not his teammate, it's completely like fair game. And I don't think Ocon oversteps the mark in his defence. But because it's his teammate, it's a bit much. And it's not... Like, I want to watch good racing, right? And I thought, again, same Saudi Arabia when they were scrapping. I really enjoyed that battle. Was it the best thing for the team? Did it compromise the team performance? Probably. But it was an enjoyable battle to watch. Two drivers going at it, right? Hammer fist. And the thing is, right, Ocon's got a reputation for not giving his teammates much room, right? He was never really close enough to Ricciardo to challenge him at Renault. But when they were both, him and Sergio were at Force India, well, we all know that blew up many a time. So Ocon's kind of got a bit of a track record of not giving, and I don't think he's ever really given Alonso that much room. They had Zandvoort last year, wasn't it, when they had a slight bit of contact as well. I think that I do wonder if, Ocon, especially with Alonso leaving, I think, Ocon wants to prove a point. I do think Ocon doesn't get the credit that he deserves, because I think most people agree that Fernando is driving at incredibly high level. So to say that, you've then also got to acknowledge that Ocon is close. Like, he's not a mile off. He's really not. If you look at the quali deltas, if you look at the race pace deltas, I think he's been behind Alonso this year, but not by a huge amount. So if you're going to say how good Alonso is, then you're kind of giving credit to Ocon as well, because to expect Ocon, sure, he's never beaten a teammate, but he's had Perez, Ricciardo, and Alonso as teammates. I mean, it's not been easy, has it? And I just think that it's one of them that I just think when it's your teammate, I think Ocon is too aggressive with his teammate. I think it's just unnecessary. Esteban was just defending like a lion. Yeah, Alonso taught him too well. Look, but also I want these drivers. I want teammates to be able to scrap. It's just when it's at the, actually, to be honest, for me, I don't really have too much issue with the lap 1 defence. But the one where they were scrapping and Ricciardo got past both. That can't happen. That can't be happening. As O in the super chat. Cheers, mate. €2. Him blocking Alonso and letting Ricciardo pass was dumb. That one, I was like, Esteban, man. You've just, defending against your teammate, you've allowed Ricciardo to get past both of you. That one was silly. But the first one I've got less of an issue with, to be honest. I don't think Ocon put him into the wall. Fernando was at no point alongside in any way, shape or form. Ocon just kind of closed the door in a similar way to how Stroll closed the door on Vettel. I know it's very, very different context because they're going off the start, but Stroll was ahead at all times of Vettel and Ocon was ahead of Alonso at all times, and So I just think that I get it, but I want to see teammates battle. You know, I want to see teammates battle. And yes, Ocon did well, yeah, I mean, you didn't put up a defence against Hamilton because what's the point? I'm not being funny. The Mercedes is a lot quicker. You're not. But that's the thing. The reason Ocon didn't put up a fight against Hamilton is because he's going to lose more time fighting it. But then you lost time and position to Ricciardo by fighting your teammate. And look, did it make a massive difference in the end? No. They wouldn't have. I think the fact they didn't jump Norris at the start meant that, you know, they weren't going to pass him. But like, he almost lost position to Vettel at the end, Ocon, so it could have blown up in his face. Anyway, right, okay. Alpine done. AlphaTauri. I mean, Pierre was happy, which, you know, Pierre finishing P12, he's not usually happy about that. But I think it's come back from last, 12th. It's a very good drive from Pierre. And again, only one retirement as well, so it wasn't like he benefited massively from other people. He did, you know, gain 8 positions, 7 on track with Bottas retiring. Beta Tauri. Brilliant. Yeah. Yuki shocker. What can I say? Not much more to say. Alfa Romeo. Shame that Bottas blew up because he might have got points. Joe. It's okay. Very little to go on. I like those 2 messages. Sunoda improved Imo, and then Sonoda is actually washed. Which one is it, guys? Come on. It's still a rough diamond, you know, but there's still a diamond there. There's still a diamond there, all right? There's still a diamond there, I promise you that. Yeah. Not much to say from Alfa Romeo. Talking about Porsche, obviously, he's now within 20-something points of Felipe Drugovich. So Teo Porsche is really ramping up that F2 challenge. I can't see Joe not getting the seat next year, I'll be honest. I think if Porsche wins and Sargent's nowhere near, then I think maybe Porsche Williams or Drugovich Williams. If Sargent's nowhere near, if Sargent just falls off a cliff. Hypothetically, of course. Then, yeah, I think that's a potential seat right there for Latifi. I think give Latifi the rest of the season, you know. But I think Porsche could put himself in that. And I think with a Chinese Grand Prix, you know, probably on the calendar next year as well, I think Joe staying in the sport is probably going to happen. And I think he's done enough to merit. I think he's done enough to merit. Has he, you know, rocked everyone's world? No, but I think he's done enough. He's done enough. And yeah, Williams. Yeah, that's it. I mean, not a great race from Albon. Front wing damage. Still finished ahead of Latifi. Nothing really to say on Williams, is there? Thank you, Jonas. Apart from, yeah, obviously the seat, I guess, you know, Albon looks pretty comfortable. Pretty sure he'll get renewed. Latifi, much less so. Obviously, there was talk of Piastri, but now, obviously, with the Alonso move, it looks like surely Piastri to Alpine's a done thing. And then you're thinking, okay, maybe it's Latifi, Albon, but then Sargent's obviously stepped up. You know, it's a difficult weekend last weekend, but I think he's showing he's got the pace. I think Williams will be keeping an eagle eye on him. I think you'll definitely get an FP1 run out, replacing Albon against Latifi, maybe. Can they do that? Because actually, they replaced Albon with... Do they have to... You know the FP1 run outs? Do they have to assign it to each car? So, like, before you had De Vries replace Albon. So, can they do Sargent replace Albon? Or do they have to do Sargent replace Latifi now? Because I'm a bit surprised that they didn't use that FP1, that first one, on Sargent. Because De Vries... I mean, look, De Vries is potential for Williams. But I think with Sargent showing what he's showing at 21, I think he's probably worth a punt. Is it each car? Okay, so it's one for each car. Fair enough. So it would be, but then I guess they could. Yeah, the only thing because they couldn't then directly compare Sargent and Latifi 1-on-1 in FP1. But then I suppose they'll be able to compare Sargent to Albon and then look at that delta between Albon and Latifi after in FP2, I guess. But yeah, we'll see. Seb kicked off silly season and it's been pretty silly as of yet. Right, okay, everyone, I'm done. I've been talking a lot today. I filmed a podcast. I did a live stream earlier. I've done this. And then I'm going to be on a certain Sky Sports F1 show later this evening. So check out Any Driven Monday at 6 p.m. tonight in less than 3 hours. I'll be on there. So that'll be fun. Did I miss any super chats? Thank you, Jonas, for joining Friends of Tommo. Appreciate it. Sean, thank you for the $4.99, mate. Almost missed yours. Are you excited for the Aston Martin to have the strongest eyebrow lineup for 2023? You know what? I didn't think of that, Sean. I didn't think of that. I'm gassed for the eyebrows, mate. They should do a beauty line with Aston Martin, shouldn't they? Well, yeah, Lawrence Stroll comes from like the garment space, so I'm sure they could work something out. But yeah, sweet. All right. Well, cheers everyone for coming. Talking points with me and Hayden is live, so I'm gonna spam that link in the chat. Public. There we go. If you want to listen to me waffle for an hour with Hayden, all about the race, feel free to listen to that if you want. It's also on all good Spotify, Apple Podcast, blah blah blah, all that stuff. So check it out if you want to. And actually, yeah, you've stayed till the end, so I'll grab Minton because he's just asleep next to me. Oh, here he is. Whee! The boy wonder, Mr. Wheel Knowledge, in the flesh. Look at you. Oh, look at him. What a beautiful boy. Right, cheers everyone for coming. Have a good day. Stay hydrated, be good, and upload later this week. Looking forward to this one. It's been a really fun video to make. Probably Thursday it's going to be coming out. So keep your eyes on your YouTube subscription boxes on Thursday. Right, cheers everyone. Say bye, Minton. Bye. Bye.